The Place to Be podcast is a proud member of the History of WWE.com website. The History of WWE.com features thousands of complete cards and detailed results from throughout wrestling history from legendary promotions across the country, in addition to informative columns and reviews. It is also the official home of the Place to Be podcast and Scott and Justin's pay-per-view reviews. So visit us at thehistoryofwwe.com or on Facebook by searching for History of WWE or the Place to Be podcast, because for anything and everything wrestling, the History of WWE.com is always the place to be.
Yeah, Frank here, he's got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's what do you call it, Kramer?
The billiard room?
No. The name.
The billiard?
Not the billiards. It was... Come on, Rudy, come on. We call it the
place to be.
The place to be, yes, it's the place to be.
Then I shall be there.
Now, it's time. Live and in living color.
The Grandy Man can.
Time to play the game!
Well, you always left me satisfied and smiling, so...
That's what she said.
Why do I want this?
Yeah.
Because I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is now time for the Place to Be podcast. And now your hosts, Justin Rosero and Scott Criscolo.
Going up to the spirit in the sky. Going up to the spirit in the sky.
Place to Be Nation, welcome to another great episode of the one and only Place to Be podcast. I'm your co-host, Justin Rosero, and there's a reason I picked that song, because I feel like it's probably the sentiment of many a fan after watching the show we're going to be reviewing tonight here in the Vintage Vault. But to do that, of course, I need to bring on my PIC, the world-renowned Dave Meltzer, plugged wrestling observer himself, Scott Criscolo. Scott, how you doing?
I'm good, JR. I hope I don't get fired for it. But welcome, everyone. Welcome, pleasure, JR, as always. Welcome to episode 97.
Getting old.
Of the Place to Be podcast. Yeah, no kidding. The Place to Be podcast. Good year for wrestling. Great year for wrestling. We'll get to that, of course, somewhere down the line. As JR mentioned, it is V Squared night, and it's actually very special V Squared evening. Now, we have gone through how many pay-per-views now? Probably 25, probably. Something like that.
I don't know, a lot.
And something of that nature. Now, only once in the time between WrestleMania 1 and our show this evening, or actually of our last week's show, In Your House #1, have we had a guest help us with...
Wrong. Twice.
Twice. We did. I don't remember the second one. The first one was... Matt Rotella helped us with...
Matt Rotella, yes.
Mumble and Matt helped us with WrestleMania 2.
How can you forget Jeremy Nichols? That's Survivor Series
Jeremy
1990.
Nichols. That's right. And then he got mad at us when we didn't give enough comments. Tonight, though, we've got the coup de grace. Certainly better than Matt. The show we're doing didn't upgrade WrestleMania 2, but the guest certainly has.
Yeah.
That way. JR, why don't you bring him in?
Of course, he is the one and only, the great Broham, Graham Cawthon.
Hey guys, how are you?
I was going to let you go with the Linda McMahon intro music.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
So you're going to come down and you're smiling with your blazer on, shaking everyone's hand.
Shaking everyone's hand.
I'm looking very awkward right now.
Cherish pushes you down in the wheelchair. Okay,
yes.
So
Yes.
welcome aboard, Graham. Welcome back. It's been a long time. I think about 70 episodes since we last spoke to you. But
Yeah, I was on, I guess, right after WrestleMania.
yes, it's been quite a while. But we are very excited when he gave you the option to come on Headlines or King of the Ring. Obviously, the masochist that you are, you chose to come on for King of the Ring.
You gave me a great one, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about a
Asshole.
softball. But it is, of course, Graham is the purveyor of what you heard at the beginning of the program, the history of WWE.com, an exceptional website, resource for us here on our show, often, particularly on Vaults. Great reviews, great columns. The Broham puts up all those. He's got, of course, now with your, obviously a newlywed, you no longer can have the Spectrum house shows plastered on your bathroom wallpaper, or can you now? Did she let you?
We're still talking about it. We're in negotiation.
Oh, okay.
Now, do you have a room dedicated to each territory, like the AWA room, Memphis room?
No, we just moved into a house, but it's not a mansion, so no.
WCW bathroom.
Yeah, as long as you put the Jim Duggan pictures in the basement, everything will be fine.
Oh.
You know, speaking of Hacksaw, she actually has a signed foam 2x4 from WCW. He signed it to her.
Now, is it the one he used in that segment? Remember he came out with the foam 2x4 and they're fighting over it, and the thing was like twisting as they're fighting with it? It was supposed to be a real
Who was he
board.
fighting with?
Oh, God. I think it was like, it was either the Filthy Animals or the Oh, no, it was like the Revolution. I think it was like
Oh, my
Douglas or one of
gosh.
those guys, or Malenko.
Good Lord.
And it was supposed to be a real board, but of course they were using a foam one, and they were like each grabbing an end, and it started twisting. You could tell it was foam. Oh, good times.
That's awesome. Anyway, we thank the Broham for being here. Unfortunately, he is a masochist because we're not exactly doing WrestleMania 3 tonight, that's for sure.
No.
Guys, not to cut you off, not to hijack the show, but can I plug the 10-year anniversary real quick?
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Please.
For those that are not aware of this, speaking of trying to hurt myself, for those who are not aware of this giant project that I'm working on, 10-year anniversary actually hits in February. The website's been around for 10 years.
Wow.
As part of that, and I figure if I'm not pushing myself, I'm getting lazy. So we are expanding. In February, I'm going to start providing coverage of Ring of Honor, TNA, and Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Insanity.
So the website is essentially doubling.
Wow.
Now, when you were on last, I think you basically said you wanted no part of doing TNA. So what changed your mind since March?
TNA, there's plenty of good to it. I mean, if you take a step back and you look at the entire run of the company, there are plenty of things that I am happy to sit down and watch all day. That's currently not what's on TV, but I mean that's part of the thing when you take a historic look at something, you're not just looking at what's happening right now. You're taking a look at the first show they ever did, Joe and Daniels and AJ Styles and
even that great, was it 2004 when they had the awesome Raven Jarrett feud going on?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I figure I'll be watching a lot. I'll be providing as much content as I can. But knowing all the fans that are on the website, I will get lots of help along the way. So it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process. But I figure if there's enough demand and interest in it, I'm along for the ride.
All right, well, if there's anything Scott or I can do to help you, please let us know. And I told Scott he's going to provide you results from the Ring of Honor 10th anniversary show he's attending.
That would be great.
I will certainly do that. I will most certainly do that. Absolutely. Unfortunately, the show we're doing tonight is not even going to be as good as that. We don't even know who's going to be on that show. We'll have to have you come back, Broham, for I don't know, WrestleMania 17 or something.
A good one. Please, a good one.
Wipe the funk off this, but let me clear my throat because I must get everyone's attention. Hear thee, hear thee.
That's it.
Oh, that was my cue.
All right, I didn't know if you had anything more than that.
No.
Sorry.
Well,
okay.
There you go.
Well, I've never seen a king or beast with quite so little hair. I'm gonna be the main event, like a king was before. Rushing up or looking down, I'm working on my board. Thus far, rather an inspiring thing. Oh, I just can't wait to be king. You've rather a long way to go, young master, if you think. No one's saying do this.
That was a very fitting song, honestly, when you listen to the lyrics.
Yeah. Better quality than what we're about to talk about. That's for sure.
Do you think Mabel was singing that?
Probably. I would
rather talk about the musical.
I honestly couldn't find many clips of the show, surprisingly enough, online, so I thought that would be a more fitting intro.
Well, it's good because I'd rather hear Graham analyze and talk about these matches
Yes.
as our and then have to listen to any audio from that anyway. First, ladies and gentlemen, tonight on the Place to Be podcast, Vintage Vault night. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I guess the day was about to come. We are about to give you the 1995 King of the Ring. I can already feel the funk in my mouth. Ugh. All right. Let's try and do this as objectively as possible, because I'm sure PTB Nation will have plenty to say when we get to the feedback later on. June 25th, 1995. Live from the Core State Spectrum. And yeah, like I'm going to shut up. This is all your fault. The Core State Spectrum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Clearly the wrong city to do. They could. This is one of those shows where it would be nice if they were in like Anaheim or Fresno or one of those cities where they show up an hour late. Not this night. Wrong city, wrong show. The attendance 16,590. Pretty good crowd. And according to the Broham site, 14,181 paid. Suckers.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
Suckers. A buy rate of 0.65. And your announcers, the same as for In Your House number 1, Vincent Kennedy McMahon and Doc Hendricks.
Now let's pose the question you posed to me, to Graham, last show. Did you think bringing him in as Doc Hendricks was a good move, or should they have left him Michael Hayes? Or do you think it was fine?
As a kid, when I was watching this, I knew who Doc Hendricks was. I knew he was Michael Hayes. But I was fine with the name change, just because when you watch wrestling, you're used to people switching around and getting their names tweaked a little bit. And I thought the persona that he had at that point, he really hadn't been on TV for very long at this point. But at that point, it still kind of had a Michael Hayes vibe to it.
Yes.
So it was perfectly fine, and I was happy to see him.
Yeah, me too. I thought he added a different voice that they needed at that point in '95.
Yeah, I agree, particularly since Lawler was involved in a lot of these shows in '95, more than I think he anticipated. They needed, there really was nobody left. Who was left to do? I mean, Pettengill? You really think I wouldn't stick him in there.
Stan Lane.
Maybe Stan Lane. I don't know how good that would have come off as.
Was DiBiase still doing commentary at this point, or he was done after '94?
I know he was doing Challenge with Lane, but I think Challenge was about to wrap up, if it hadn't already.
Yeah, so I think it was probably a smart move to hire him anyway. But yeah, I mean, I had said that it didn't faze me either way. I would have been nice if he was PS, but whatever. Vince was still in that weird mode in '95 of pretending that nothing else around him exists. So anyway. We have, for the first time, this is not a dark match, but JR, why don't you tell everyone what what cable companies or what WWF started to do with this show right beforehand?
Of course, this is the actual debut. Graham, can you confirm that debut of the Free For All?
It was called Sunday Night Slam.
Okay, so it was not the Free For All match yet.
No, but I think it's the same concept, and they had done a few Sunday Night Slams before. I think that was kind of like they replaced the pay-per-view build-up USA special, and they just called it Sunday Night Slam.
Okay.
Like Road to WrestleMania kind of deal.
Okay, so this was on USA?
Or
just on the preview channel?
I think this was just on the preview channel.
Okay.
And actually, we don't usually talk about debuts in the preview matches or the dark matches, but we actually do. Sort of. We talked about this gentleman last week on the Vault for In Your House number 1 as this mysterious friend of Razor Ramon running out from the crowd to save him from the beatdown of Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie. JR, tell us who this mysterious man is.
Get into most of his background in Your House 1, of course, is Savio Vega, portrayed by Juan Rivera, the former Quang. Showed up in Your House 1, and since then he's just pretty much been Razor Ramon's buddy. And Razor was supposed to be in this tournament, and as we go along, we'll document the brackets, but he had to pull out due to injury. Graham, was that worked, or was that real at the time?
That was legit. He was having a ladder match with Jarrett, and it was 2 weeks before the pay-per-view. I'm trying to actually see where that
June
was.
9th.
June 9th. And he hurt his ribs.
Okay, so yeah, they pulled him out. They put Savio and IRS were entered in as a qualifying match with the winner taking Ramon's spot in the first round. So they fight here on the Sunday Night Slam, and Savio wins with Razor in his corner. 8 minutes.
Is it 8 minutes?
7.5. Wikipedia has 8. We have 7.5.
I got 4.
You have 4?
No, you're looking at the opening match. Free for all, the matches. We have 358. He has 401.
Oh, okay. Wiki's way off then. They have 801.
Yeah. No, okay. No, we have 358. Graham's got 401. So it's about 4 minutes. Somebody was drunk, probably doing Wiki.
I shouldn't go by that. I just happen to be looking at it for the date of the other thing, and I'll stick to our stuff because we take it right from Graham. So
yeah. All right. So there's your free for all. So let's dive right into the tournament. And Savio Vega has to hop right back in again, and he takes on, in the first round of the tournament, the former World Wrestling Federation champion and currently one half of the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. And that is, of course, Yokozuna. JR, why don't you let us know who they defeated to qualify? Well, we know who Savio defeated.
Yes.
Who did Yoko defeat? There was a little bit behind this match, too.
Yes, he defeated Lex Luger on Raw by countout, I believe. But the whole reason that match even happened was because British Bulldog and Owen Hart had that qualifying match that we talked about that was filmed the night of In Your House 1. aired on Raw a couple weeks later. They went to a draw, so they were both eliminated. So they put Luger and Yoko in there on 6-12 to fill the last slot. Luger at this time was having guest flag bearers come down with him to the ring, and Yoko attacked that flag bearer outside, and Luger came out to save him and got counted out. And Graham, do you know who that flag bearer was on that night?
Yes, I looked it up, but I remembered it because I actually was emotionally invested in this match for whatever reason. That was Scott Anton, also known as Scotty Riggs, who would win the WCW tag straps a few months afterwards.
So was he? I wonder if they were looking at him for a deal or anything at this point, or he just happened to come in on a one-time shot.
I don't know. I mean, he's a long time. I think he was even doing WCW jobber matches before that. So I don't know. But the week before, I'll tell you why I was emotionally invested. Because the week before, to build to this match, they showed the stupid "I'll Be Your Hero" video again.
Oh, that's right.
And I remember watching it, going, I don't really care about Luger, but this is a really good video. I hope he wins next week. And then they do the stupid. They have Yoko get his count out loss back by getting a count out loss over Luger.
Luger,
I was like, you bastards.
He must have been so frustrated during this run. I mean, a lot of times you could say he hurt himself, but there were just so many starts and stops with him during this run. It's just kind of frustrating.
Oh, yeah. They opened WrestleMania with him and Bulldog against the Blue Brothers.
Ugh, don't get me started. A disaster.
Well, and the thing, too, is I liked the Allied Powers. I remember at the time I liked them as a team, and as we'll see at our next show, challenging for the titles and everything, I thought they were going to win there and be put over pretty strongly as a team.
But clearly not. So Savio moves on. Would you consider this an upset? I definitely consider this an upset. I don't think anybody thought Yoko would lose.
I guess at the time it came across as an upset, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. We had talked about, well, as we get further on in the tournament, this becomes a trend and we can compare it to something else. You made a good comparison, I think, in your comments on our board, which please go to right now, bigelow34.proboards.com, and follow along with us. So Savio Vega moves on, and he will take on in the next round the winner of this match. In his first singles match on pay-per-view, I believe, yes. His first singles match on pay-per-view, the Roadie, Jeff Jarrett's sidekick. He had wrestled in the last show in the handicap match, but here he is wrestling solo, taking on one of your boys from the mid-'90s, Sparky Plug, Bob Holly.
95 was the year of Sparky Plug. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he pops back up and appears on a bunch of pay-per-views.
Yes. And who do they defeat to get here?
All right, well, Roadie defeated Doink, and Holly defeated the Great Mantar on Raw as well. So that's how they made it here. And Graham, do you know, was there a reason that Jarrett wasn't in this tournament either? This is one of the most confounding tournaments of all time. All these guys that don't show up.
Well, they picked a whole bunch of guys that like Undertaker. Could you really see Undertaker as King of the Ring anyway?
No.
Could you really see Jeff Jarrett when he's, the Intercontinental Champion as King of the Ring anyway? They had a whole bunch of weird picks for this. And then you've got, matches where, like the Savio Yoko match, you're thinking, oh, well, Yoko's going to eat him. And then they have all these weird upsets along the way. So it's like bad direction from the start. You pick the wrong guys to go in the tournament, and then you put the wrong guys over.
It's an odd choice, and this is something that would plague King of the Ring on and off for the rest of its life here until 2002. And a lot of times they seem to have things lined up where they had their good talent to put in there, and then they'd botch the results every year of who moved on and what matchups they had. And yeah, this you just look at this and it's like, really, these two jobbers, they couldn't do better than this? I mean, honestly, like Roadie had some decent heat with Jarrett, but he wasn't really looked at as any kind of legitimate threat. And I understand maybe trying to make him look like one here by having him win this match. But in Holly, yeah, he had that quick tag title run, but that was looked at more of a fluke early in the year. So just odd choices. I mean, like you said, you left Jarrett, Luger, Bulldog, and Owen all off this card pretty much.
And we're only halfway through the quarterfinals.
Exactly. If you replace, Savio, yeah, I can understand even leaving Yoko, but Roadie, Holly, put Jarrett, Bulldog, and Owen in those spots, and now you're looking at a much better tournament.
Yep.
Yeah. And as we see along the way, the guys that deserve to be in this tournament, the choices for what happens to them are not exactly the smartest moves either, as we see in our next match. But this match is, as expected, kind of dull and flat. And
it was okay. I mean, honestly, I think it might be the best match of the tournament, to be fully honest with you.
Yeah, pretty close. But unfortunately, saying that doesn't still say much. And the crowd, which we're going to refer to a lot this evening because the crowd pretty much dictates the energy level of this show. The crowd is still into it. We'll let you know when they start to take
I
a
have
detour.
an idea.
Yeah, when they start taking a detour. It might be with this next match. But
Well, do you was this the one where isn't this one like Holly kicks out at 2.5 or something weird and they count 3? I don't know if either of you remember that. It was like some weird finish.
I wonder if
It's a stupid finish, but I don't recall a weird pinfall.
I could have swore there was like because I know they do the boot. Holly comes off the rope and Rhodey boots him in the face, and I thought like Holly kicked up right at 3 or something confusing or something weird like that. I don't know.
As he came off the top, he pins him with a boot. Yeah, boot to the face.
Yeah. So
yeah, guy's what 5'11", and he went. Well, you know what? Edge used it, I guess, after a while too. All right, so Savio Vega and the Rhodey move on to the next round, and here's where I think the first match where you start to see some cracks in the in the booking of this. And I think
Loser, you saw his timing was way off.
yeah, a lot of timing is off. Our
You'd
next
be excited about that clip, Scott. That's one of your favorites. I found it for you.
I know. I don't know. I'm trying to stay positive here, and the clips are trying to get me motivated. But as we continue on with these matches, it's just not. Where's Scotty? Where's Johnny Polo? We need to.
Are you guys drinking? Maybe we should all start drinking and have a King of the Ring 95 drinking.
I think we should do shots for every time Savio Vega's in a match.
Too bad I was like 14
wins.
during the show. I probably would have been hammered during it if I was a little bit older.
Yeah. Okay, in the third match, we have Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine, who is still walking around with the Undertaker's urn, which I believe he has already melted to this point into a chain. I believe he already has. Taking on, and this is almost you would think this is almost a gift. Like you have a hand-delivered winner for this tournament.
Killer, the Reaper of Souls, the master puppeteer on the stage, you fools.
Yeah, master. Yeah. What were you puppeteering, dope? What were you running? Great. Anybody had Zach Gowen win this tournament? I think everybody would have been. What was he like 2? Anyway, Kama takes on the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, who's freshly turned babyface. He's only had one match since, and that match was, as tell us PIC, who these two gentlemen beat in their qualifiers.
Well, Kama defeated Duke Drosy, of course, the dumpster, and Shawn Michaels returned from his injury suffered at the hands of Sid the night after WrestleMania to defeat King Kong Bundy, who's still putting around. And this is Shawn's, of course, first and only King of the Ring tournament match. So
yes. What have we? We need to give. Do we have to give the background on Kama? Have we really done
last
that?
We saw him. Why don't let Graham do it? Graham, pick us up from his Papa Shango days for us.
Yes.
Okay, so Papa Shango went away in, I want to say, summer of '93. Jump ahead, late 1994 after Survivor Series, and you start seeing vignettes for Kama, who's this dude that likes to apparently street fight and maybe ride a motorcycle. And he's kind of UFC-ish, and UFC is still kind of underground and edgy, so we were afraid that he might be able to kill us. And then he shows up with Ted DiBiase, and he's using submissions, and he gets involved with the Lawrence Taylor scenario at WrestleMania. And around that same time, he starts targeting The Undertaker. So he steals the urn, which is really a bad idea. I mean, if he's watched any WWF before he showed up, you don't really need to be messing with the urn, dude. So he takes the urn, he melts it down, and now he's got some bling.
His whole run was full of bad decisions. He had the big brawl at Mongo right before WrestleMania 11 on Raw, if you remember that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Graham, here's a little test for you based on your website. His in-ring debut, Superstars. Do you remember the date and who he beat?
I can't remember it now.
It was January 28th. He beat Matt Hardy.
Well, good on Matt Hardy. He's gotten somewhere.
Yeah. He won.
I don't know where he is right
Nation.
now.
No, he's successfully carrying around the PTB Nation Asshole of the Year award.
Yeah.
He's pretty much doing right now.
Guys, not to cut off.
No,
but,
go ahead.
Speaking of this show, do you know who is opening the doors at the entrance for all the guys to come out?
It's the Hardys, right?
The Hardys.
That's right. I was going to say DDP, but that was something else. Okay, yeah.
No, he was in WCW at this point.
No, he was feuding with Dave Sullivan's Rabbit, I think, at this point.
Yes, he was. And, of course, in between the Shango and Kama run, Charles Wright went back down to USWA as Shango and won the heavyweight championship down there. He had a feud with Owen Hart. And I don't know if he fought Lawler at all, but I know he was... 93 was that really... 93 and 94 was that really bizarre year down there in USWA with Vince's heel turn and Brett and Lawler feuding and Owen and Shango and everything. And
Apparently, the Owen Shango feud, from what I've heard, was actually very good. Their matches were very good. They actually had some good chemistry in the ring. I almost feel like that Kama was like a poor man's Kimbo Slice, without the bad beard.
I think he was a good wrestler, and I thought this gimmick was pretty good. It wasn't until he pretty much got lazy at the end of the decade when he picked up a gimmick that he didn't really need to do much of the ring to make successful, where he kind of fell apart. And
yet that's the one that made him successful.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? Go figure. But I think up until that point, even as Shango, like he was pretty solid in the ring for a big guy.
I love Shango. I love that gimmick. I wish that gimmick was still around to some degree. I think there was a lot, looking back now 20 years later, I think there was so much potential to do with that character, but it seemed like as soon as Ultimate Warrior left town, they just jobbed him out to everybody.
And you know what's funny? They pushed the hell out. I was watching those episodes of Superstars on WWE.com, and he was getting a massive push. They were putting him over so strong throughout that summer, and really is a legitimate monster. Yeah, and then they even started a feud with Brett, though, after SummerSlam, where they said he put the curse on Brett, and that made him lose the IC title.
Exactly, yeah.
And then it just kind of faded after Brett won the world title. But
And then, of course, he was involved in the end of WrestleMania 8, and then everybody blamed him for coming to the ring late, and it was a totally fucking freaking disaster.
That was a big spot for him, though, right off his debut, to come charging down during the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah. And, of course, Sid, thought he was late and kicked out of the leg drop. The whole big poor disaster. But in any event, Kama gets a chance here on a big stage to take on probably one of the 3 best workers in the company in Shawn Michaels. And you would think, guys, pretty easy to have Shawn win this match and get the crowd all pumped up.
Well, at the time, I definitely thought he was winning the tournament. Do you agree, Graham?
Yep. I remember even watching Sunday Night Slam, they had Shawn come out, and they did an interview with him at the entrance stage. Mm-hmm. And the dude, he was so massively over.
Yes.
I mean, from the moment he came out with that match with Bundy, the dude, I mean, it was like snap your fingers, and he's super, super over babyface.
Yep.
So I thought that was logical.
But then the warning signs go off as he's making his entrance to this match, because he stops by the throne and goes to put the crown on, doesn't fit his head. He kind of makes like a funny face and just puts it back down. I remember at the time I was watching over my friend Jim's house, and we were like, something's weird. Like maybe he's going to bring a different crown out, like in denial that he was not going to win now. But yeah, it was just like a bad sign right from the beginning. It's like if they could have went back, if Vince, as soon as he saw that, he should have called an audible when he realized, wait, what the hell am I doing? Not having this guy win this tournament.
Yes. And I remember, I didn't watch this show live, but I remember the commentary really starting to get herky-jerky. This was Vince's whole, again, not really trusting the past or anything, because both times, every time Doc Hendricks mentions a moment from the first 2 King of the Rings, Yoko winning the world title earlier in the show, and then he mentioned Shawn defending the IC title against Crush, Vince blows him off. You know how Vince gets? He's like, yeah, well, and then superior athletic matchup here, and just kind of blows and moves on. You can tell that Doc Hendricks is like, all right, Vince, stop being a fucking idiot. And watching the tape, even the tape wasn't done right, because there's a weird...
Well, hang on. I was going to say, I wanted to actually quiz Graham on this. Okay. Graham, what was going on in the aisle as Shawn was trying the crown on and walking down the aisle? Do you remember? There was someone in the aisle.
No.
It was the legendary Barry Dudinsky, shilling merchandise.
Oh, see, I have the VHS and they cut those out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I have the Coliseum video copy, and all of a sudden Shawn comes out and "Ink, I'm cool." Like 6 words in, it cuts the thing off, so they cut it. It's so bizarre. It's such a disaster.
Yeah, so
they had the same thing. I think it was at SummerSlam before the ladder match. He's ringside showing the T-shirts.
Yes, he was,
and they cut that out too.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, so that's the whole big thing heading in before this match. Dudinsky's in the aisle. Shawn puts his armor on him and mugs for the camera and everything, and then tries the crown on. Doesn't fit.
Yeah, doesn't fit. And so you're thinking, wow, all right, Shawn comes in, big win. He's going to beat this big dumb oaf. And then you're like, 2 minutes left. The match is like 13 minutes, 13 and a half minutes. You're like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, I figure you want this match to be long.
Well,
Shawn.
No, as soon as you flash, because they started flashing the clock, I think, with like 4 minutes left or something. And as soon as you start doing that, you know where it's headed.
Yeah, and the match ends in a draw. And right then and there, the Philly fans start going, wait a minute here. What's going on? So the crowd starts getting that hush, and clearly it doesn't get any better from here. So Shawn and Kama are out of the tournament, which means the winner of this next match actually gets a powder, a bye, like the one-man gang at WrestleMania 4. What a dud. Well, the freshly turned heel, and we know who it is. What is it?
Sorry. There's a lot going on over here tonight.
My girls like candy too.
Did you ever think, Graham, that whenever you hear this song ever again, you're going to think of Mabel?
See, I was thinking Kevin Smith.
Yes, that as well.
Yeah, that is true. Of course, Mabel, the big, nasty heel of the now heel Men on a Mission. Although there really isn't Men on a Mission anymore because they don't wrestle as a team.
Yeah, well, Oscar's gone. Modus has been managing Mabel, and they would team up on TV here and there, but Mo would get the random singles match, not many, but it's mainly him managing Mabel.
Right. They take on the other guy that everyone would have thought, even though, Graham, I agree with you that he probably wouldn't look good with a crown on it. The guy's still, one of the studs of the company. And that is, of course, The Undertaker, who skipped. Well, he didn't skip In Your House one. He just wasn't on camera. And last time we saw him on pay-per-view was defeating King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 11. And now here you're thinking, okay, well, if Shawn's not winning this thing, then at least The Undertaker might win this thing.
Right, that's definitely what I was thinking at the time. But then when you look at the other bracket, it's like, who the hell's he going to fight in the finals? Rhodey? I mean, this is like, it was so stupid. I mean, the booking was so obvious. Like, why not have this match before Shawn and Kama? Because at least then you would have a little bit of mystery going into this. Like, at this point, obviously it's going to be Mabel because you're not going to have Undertaker and Rhodey in the finals, and you're not going to have Undertaker and Savio Vega. So,
well, you say obviously, but when was the last time Undertaker was pinned on pay-per-view?
I guess that's
or
true.
On TV.
Yeah. Well, maybe you're thinking like
count out.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe both of them get eliminated and Savio and Rhodey's the final. I don't know. But, I mean, you definitely, yeah, you're right. Mabel over Undertaker is such a major upset, but I still think they should have had this third before Shawn and Kama, because at least that would add a little intrigue to it.
Yeah. Why don't you let the listeners know who these guys defeated to get here?
Mabel beat your boy, Adam Bomb, and Undertaker defeated Jeff Jarrett, a guy who we said obviously should have been in this tournament at this point.
Adam Bomb is pretty much laying down for everybody at this point. I don't even know.
Of course, that was In Your House 1, like we talked about in our last show.
Yeah. Yep. I don't think it was even around much longer after this. I don't know. He didn't last the year, right? He definitely didn't last. Maybe he lasted the summer. I don't know, but
yeah, probably not much more than this. He would have been gone actually by this point. Do you know, Graham?
I think you guys are right. Yeah. If he wasn't gone already, he was about to be.
Okay. Now, again, you're thinking, all right, well, Taker's got to win this. I mean, even whatever. There's going to be some kind of mess here, but sure enough, Kama comes out, interferes. Mabel hits the leg drop, which suddenly seems to be the great finisher of King of the Ring matches. and now you're just now you don't even know what to think. And now, for the first time, you start hearing the chant. I was going to actually see if you had it saved in your audio cache, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it. Crowd started chanting. It wasn't silence anymore, but they were chanting. And if you were a young fan, you probably had no idea what they were chanting. But if you were a fan of our age, who was watching something other than this in the mid-'90s, particularly in this city, the chants began. ECW, 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 ECW. Bad, bad, bad sign. And at this point, you can even tell Vince's commentary. He starts to get a little skittish from this point on. This is just a complete and utter disaster. So your semifinals are...
Now, Graham, were you aware of ECW at this point?
I was aware. I mean, I read the after mags and everything, and the big names like Sabu and Taz and Shane Douglas, who had just jumped. So I guess he was already under contract with WWE. But yeah, I knew of them. I read about them. Terry Funk was doing moonsaults, but that was about it.
Yeah, I was the same as you. I hadn't seen any of it or anything like that.
I don't even know if I was going to be watching the pay-per-view live if I would have even connected, ECW is based in Philadelphia. I don't even know if I would have gotten that.
I don't think I did.
I remember watching because I was just graduated from college, so I had the summer to goof off, and I remember, after a long night of libations, coming home and throwing on MSG at like 3:00 in the morning, and I think it was J.T. Smith was the first guy I ever watched, and I think and he faced, I don't remember, Hack Myers or one of those guys, and of course he blew a move, so the "you fucked up" chant started, and that was it. From then on, I actually started taping episodes for the next like 6 months, and then I rented this, I don't know, like 3 weeks after or whatever, a month after it came out, and then the chant started, and I obviously put 2 + 2 together. But you could clearly tell, commentary wise, that Vince was like, oh shit. You could tell. I know if you really listen, you could tell he's like, oh boy. And Doc's probably like, you.
Now at this point, did we know? I know we didn't know, but do you know, Graham, was Nitro well known? Like, would Vince have been aware that WCW was going to start putting on this kind of full court press on him?
Well, Nitro started Labor Day,
right?
So you've got like maybe 10 weeks out.
So I'm sure they knew about it.
When was that press conference that Bischoff had? Was that by now?
That I do not know when it was announced, but I mean June 25th. You're talking 10 weeks out.
I'm sure they knew because they would have had to book the Mall of America and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think when, because it's on the Rise and Fall of WCW DVD when they did that press conference, and I'm thinking had to have been around this time, May or June, that they wanted to start pumping the show up. So, maybe if the fans didn't know, at least insiders. I'm sure
that's what I'm curious. I wonder if Vince kind of knew that the pressure, because I'm just wondering, he's hearing the ECW chants, his product sucks, and he knows Nitro's coming. Like, I didn't know if that would play a role.
Well, WCW at this point wasn't a hell of a lot better, and they only got better because they did Nitro and Nitro built on itself. But I don't know if in June '95 Vince would have seen WCW going to Mondays as being really competition.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you want to put Hulk Hogan against Big Bubba on Monday night? Ooh, go scared.
Poor Big Bubba. Poor Ray Trailer. Poor Ray Trailer.
My favorite Mongo quote of all time. You get the speed and athleticism of the Hulkster against the power and the quickness of Big Bubba.
Yeah, baby. All right, so we only have one semifinal left now because Mabel amazingly gets a pass to the finals, just like the One Man Gang got a pass to the semis at WrestleMania 4. So we have our semifinal match. What was that?
It's a little bit different this time around.
Yeah, very, very different. We don't have Savage and Valentine or two stellar guys on the other side of the bracket. Your other semifinal is Savio Vega, who's already wrestled twice on this night, once in the free-for-all and once in the quarters, taking on the Roadie. Can't believe I just said that, though. Oh, good Lord. Savio Vega and the Roadie. I'm not even kidding. That's what it is, folks. Savio Vega and the Roadie is your big-time semifinal of this King of the Ring tournament. And the fans are done now. They're done. They've checked out. The ECW chants are still going. They checked out.
But now, at the time, I definitely did not still want... I don't know if I just was in denial, didn't want to believe it, but I don't think I assumed... I think I was just delusional to this whole Mabel push. I had no idea he was going to be at Adam Bomb. And then here, I was pretty sure Savio was going to go for like the Rocky thing in Philadelphia, win 4 matches as the underdog, and win the tournament. That's what it seemed like to me, because it seemed like he was getting pushed more than Mabel was, in my eyes. So, at this point, I thought Savio was obviously winning the tournament, to me. Graham, I don't know if you agree watching it at the time or following it.
Thankfully, I didn't get to watch it live.
Okay.
I had a choice. I had a choice that month. My parents said you can order one of 2 pay-per-views, and I went with the Great American Bash.
Good choice.
Yes.
Well, I will say this. Luckily, my friend had an illegal box growing up, so I saw the majority of the shows, especially in the summer months, for free. Sometimes during the school year, I just ordered it myself. But luckily, the summer of '95, I was saved from spending any money.
All right. I'm going to go to the wonderful history of WWE.com because, Graham, you did bring it up. So I'm going to see while my PIC JR was watching that, we're going to find out what you were watching in your house. The 1995 Great American Bash. Very quickly. We'll go through it quickly. All right. 1990. This is what you were watching, Graham. Hara Arena in Dayton, Ohio, June 18th. So it was a week before.
Mm-hmm.
The main event featured Eric Bischoff interviewing Nick Bockwinkel in the aisle about WCW World Champion Hulk Hogan and Vader. Harlem Heat defeated Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. Sergeant Craig Pittman
Will you stop?
defeated Chris Kanyon. Bunkhouse Buck and Dick Slater defeated two jobbers. That was the undercard. The actual pay-per-view bouts, Alex Wright pinned Brian Pillman. Probably not.
Crap. I mean, it was a great match, but they put the wrong guy over in Ohio.
Yeah. Evad Sullivan, one of my favorite guys of all time, defeated DDP in an arm wrestling contest. And then Evad won a date with the Diamond Doll. Jim Duggan defeated Sergeant Craig Pittman. He wrestled again. Wow. Harlem Heat defeated Bunkhouse Buck and Dick Slater. The Renegade won the WCW television title on this night. Defeated Arn Anderson.
Oh, God, I remember that. Awful.
The tag team champions, the Nasty Boys, defeated Lord Steven Regal and Bobby Eaton. Moments afterwards, Harlem Heat and Sister Sherry interfered, and Booker hit the Harlem Hangover on Knobs, only to accidentally crotch Eaton on the top rope. Then the WCW U.S. Tournament Final, Sting defeated Meng to win the U.S. title. And the main event was Ric Flair defeated Randy Savage after assaulting Angelo Poffo on the floor and hitting Savage in the face with Poffo's cane.
I remember liking that Sting and Ming match.
So, Graham, that's what you were watching
Mm-hmm.
in June of 19. Yeah, what are you laughing at? Seriously. All right.
That Savage Flair feud was pretty hot, though. I think that popped a pretty good house show business for them. Was it that one? I know they feuded again in 96, but I think the 95 one did some pretty good business.
It may have. I thought the 96 one was a whole lot hotter once they got Elizabeth involved. And
oh, that's right, yeah.
Savage is trying to kill Flair, and Elizabeth is spending his money.
That was a good angle. The whole thing kind of got derailed by the NWO starting up, but...
They like threw him out of the building, and he never kept kicking doors in and beating up security. Yeah, I remember that. It was pretty crazy. I think 96. Yeah, I think 95 the matches were better, but in 96 I think like you said, Graham, I think the heat was hotter based on being on Nitro and that kind of thing. So, All right. While we need to sit and kind of so far digest what in God's name we've been talking about before we continue on. So why don't we take a break? Because the next match actually is a major upgrade, which really is kind of sad. But before we do that, let's hear from our good friends at WrestleChat.net. And that is because...
Hey, PTB Nation, it is now time for the Rob Houston Memorial Hacksaw Jim Duggan Update.
On June 6, 1995 in Dalton, Georgia, Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated John Faulkner. On June 7th in Atlanta, Georgia at Center Stage Theater, Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated some guy I don't even know his name. At the Great American Bash on June 18th, 1995, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, subbing for Marcus Alexander Bagwell, who didn't want to take the job, defeated Sergeant Craig Pittman via disqualification when Pittman refused to break the code red. That happened to me too, and it hurts. On June 20th, 1995 in Gainesville, Georgia, Hacksaw Jim Duggan had another match with Sergeant Craig Pittman, and it was the same result. Also on that show, he beat Rick Thames. On June 21st, 1995 in Atlanta, Georgia at Center Stage Theater, Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated Sonny Trout. That sounds like an actual fish. He may have fought a fish on that show. I am not sure. And that's your Hacksaw Jim Duggan look in June 1995.
Thank you, Graham.
You're welcome.
Why the hell did you make him do that?
I didn't make him do it. He jumped at the chance. He was
Oh,
chomping at the bit to do that.
Good. Now no one's going to hear the WrestleChat promo. Good Lord.
No,
All
we're
right.
still going to do a WrestleChat promo.
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead, set us up. Set us up again, and then you could take a deep breath and do a shot of Jaeger or something.
Definitely do a shot of that after that. Good Lord, Sonny Trout. What? I can't believe Bagwell didn't want a job to Craig Pittman. Seriously. And then Duggan ended up winning
That's
anyway.
my theory. He probably had his muscles and his legs worked on or something. The implants.
Had a Cobra debuted at that point, kicking off the Red Hot Cobra Craig Pittman feud.
Not yet.
All right.
They had like two matches. Cobra with the fucking Morse code theme song.
Oh God, let's go.
God, I know if you got any question about Saturday night from 95 to 97, I'm your man. That was my wonderful, exciting life on Saturday nights. I'd watch that and then call Jim. We'd break it down every week.
Good God. All right. Let's once again take a breather, particularly after that. Because Graham now is going to have a Sonny Trout poster in his bathroom. I'm sure your wife will love that. Let's hear our good friends from WrestleChat.net. Please, because
promotional consideration has been paid for by the following.
How many pro wrestling news websites do you visit to get your daily news? 3, 4, maybe 5? Do yourself a favor and make that number 1. WrestleChat.net, the only professional wrestling news site that brings you all wrestling news all day long, and is home of the critically acclaimed Still Real to Us podcast, starring former CZW, ROH, and ECW announcer Eric Gargiulo and the champ Jeff Beck. That's WrestleChat.net. WrestleChat, it's where it's at.
Graham, I was saying, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Graham, do you know those guys? Have you ever had any correspondence with them at all?
I don't think so.
No?
I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
They're actually doing their 100th episode tonight, right before ours. They're doing their 100th episode of WrestleChat Radio with the champ, the announcer. They were pretty excited. Right. They were pimping it on Facebook all day. So kudos to them. Yep. And Graham, I wanted to ask you if you have the same dream that I do when you hear that and you remember the Nitro song. And I was telling Scott, I want to get this in this room I'm in upstairs in my house. I'm going to dim the lights and have the big holograms of the WCW wrestlers appear on the wall like at the beginning of Nitro.
And just like the WCW did, Justin will keep Hogan in the red and yellow through 1999 because God forbid WCW updated the fucking Open, for Christ's sakes. I mean, seriously. WrestleChat.net is your home for everything pro wrestling. WWE, TNA News, Ring of Honor. Of course, they're working on getting a little group together for that big show on March 4th at the Manhattan Center. They have a great message board, of course, their podcast, number 100 tonight for them. And go right to the right of the screen. You see the little PTB gnome. Click on it and go right to our Podbean page and listen to our shows. So WrestleChat.net, of course, they sponsor our weekly news and notes segment on our headline show. WrestleChat.net is your home for everything pro wrestling. All right. Now that we have everything settled.
Well, that didn't surprise me a bit because Lou Albano is a big, fat, sloppy pig.
You know what? I think even if he was doing commentary for this show, I think it might have been tolerable because I think Jesse would have just been like, "Really? We have to watch this crap?"
What if instead of commentary? What if instead of commentary, he just wanders around ringside?
Who's this Sabio Vega? He'll start making taco jokes like he did with Tito Santana. Oh God, we only wished. All right, we
Graham,
take a brief.
I like testing Graham's trivia knowledge. What was that clip from?
Yes,
I think we lost him actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think he got annoyed that we were asking all these trivia questions. No, I couldn't. Let me see if I can get it back. Hang on 1 second.
Yep, his thing is gray. Well, while he's looking for the Broham, let me set up our next match. We leave the tournament momentarily. We now go to a match that finally ends a feud that is almost an even 2 years old. We go back 2 years to the Nutter Center in Dayton, Ohio, for the very first King of the Ring pay-per-view, June 13th, 1993. And, of course, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Hello.
You back with us?
Yeah. Right, I don't know what just happened.
It's all right. I'm going to try and merge these calls. Oh, crap. Why won't it let me do it?
And he
Scott, you're there. Hang on. Graham, you're not there, are you?
I don't see him.
I don't know. It's not letting me conference these fucking calls.
You always left me satisfied and smiling, so...
That's what she said. Why do I want this?
Yeah.
Because I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is now time for the Place to Be Podcast. And now your hosts, Justin Rosero and Scott Friscolo.
All right, PTB Nation, we are back, and I guess that's what happens when you make fun of WCW. The NWO busted into Graham Cawthon's production truck, caught off all his connection to us, and wreaked some havoc. So we are back, though, for just in time for the second half of the exhilarating King of the Ring 1995. Of course, with me, as always, my PIC Scott, the Broham Graham. We left off last, coming off the end of the semifinals, Savio Vega and Rhodey.
Yes. So yes. All right.
Well, hang on now. I got to ask Graham my trivia question.
Oh, okay.
Graham, we ended that last segment with a wonderful clip from Jesse Ventura. Do you know what that was from?
Lou Albano doing something obnoxious, but that really doesn't narrow it. No, I don't.
It was from the Halloween Saturday Night's Main Event when Lou Albano won the pie eating contest.
Yes, October 1985. Yep.
Do you guys think less of me that I don't know the answers to all these?
No, you know way more than you probably any man should.
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect.
Most of the stuff we're stumping you on is absolute obscure crap anyway.
And we only know it because we've been beating it to the ground over the last 100 episodes. So.
I don't want to hurt my street cred.
I know. We're really exposing you here. But
no, not at all. Not at all. All right.
That's what happens when you got to carry a lesser worker like Scott. You know, your weaknesses get exposed very quickly.
Like Rick Martel and Tito Santana?
He's a loser.
Yeah, I do all the talking and he plays all the audio. Anyway, all right. We break off from the tournament momentarily. And we, as I was saying before, we finally end a feud that is exactly 2 years old. Let us turn back the clock to the Nutter Center in Dayton, Ohio.
I don't do any tricks.
Well, you didn't need to do any that night because nobody needed you. Because on this night, the Hitman, Bret Hart, fresh off losing the World Wrestling Federation title at WrestleMania 9 in a show that might have just been as awful as the one we're doing right now, wins the King of the Ring, the first ever. And as he's being crowned, the King, in his eyes, the real King, Jerry Lawler, comes in and crowns Bret. You know, I know we would love to see Art. You know what? Art Donovan might have made this show better. I think they should have held him off a year.
I know. Why'd they bring him out? We didn't need him in '94. We needed him now.
Yeah, certainly. And anyway, from that.
Who's that big African American in the ring, gorilla?
How much does he weigh? I can't hear you, Art. So from that point forward, the Hitman and the King had a 2-year blood feud that involved multiple matches with tag matches.
Since when did they start letting Hispanics into the country?
He definitely made this so much better. I've seen that guy outside selling tacos at the stadium when I was playing for the Colts.
That's racist.
All right. Anyway, after 2 years, this feud finally ends. But the Hitman and the King have a kiss my foot match. Because that was always the one line that Lawler always hung on for so long. Kiss my feet, kiss my feet, kiss my royal feet. Well, Bret said, you know what? Screw you. You're going to kiss my Canadian feet.
Hey, I may have the winner.
You do, Art. You're the winner.
Graham, you have an idea why they dragged this feud back up on a mothballs? Was it just to keep Bret busy?
Probably. But see, Lawler didn't have any credibility because he just got done feuding with a clown. So they put him over Bret just randomly. And then, of course, you know, it Inner House won and it builds to this. But, you know, I just think the whole bringing it back in 95, it was almost comedic. Like, if they really wanted to settle a blood feud, it would have made sense to put it in a cage or something like that. Mm-hmm. But instead, they're doing stupid stipulations that, you know, are just kind of silly.
And they were lucky that Bret could dig them out of these holes because he was so good in the ring. So you were never going to get a bad match out of him, as stupid as the storylines and
as hard as they try.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know Lawler would work a decent match as well. So I guess you make a very good point that I never really thought of, just how ruined Lawler had been made throughout '94 with the feud with Doink. And not, you know, even before that he was feuding with Piper, which, you know, their mic interactions were good, but that match was pretty terrible at King of the Ring a year ago. So yeah, this match really was like Bret Hart basically fighting an announcer who jobs the midgets and clowns. So it wasn't
pretty much. And I mean, the build of this was actually very funny. You know, Lawler spent the previous month not washing his feet, and they showed, you know, him walking through, like, you know, pig troughs and you know, horse stables and all sorts of fun and exciting things, which I guess kind of added to the comedy and to the entertainment value of the match. And to be honest with you, the match itself was actually not bad, because
the funny part is the crowd's actually pretty into this match only because of Bret, and I think this is the hottest match on the card, as stupid as it is, and the stipulation and the feud. But the Philly crowd, who's obviously had been pretty angry up to this point, I guess they just really were into Bret, because when you go back and watch this match, the crowd was pretty into it.
Exactly. Graham, what are your thoughts? What do you think?
Like you said, they did all these funny and silly vignettes, and I just think the company need a little bit more seriousness at this point. And I think if they were going to do a nice blow off, put it in a cage. Make it, at least a little dangerous. Not, oh, my feet stink and I'm going to stick them in your face.
They could have done a hybrid gimmick, too. I mean, they could have done a cage and still did the Kiss My Foot thing, like the next night on Raw or something.
That would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, Graham, that I think they needed to kind of up the violence ante here and give this Philly crowd something to wrap their heads around. The match is actually not bad. Again, Lawler, when it comes to brass tacks, can still wrestle a decent match. And Brett's Brett. I mean, obviously, poor guy's, carrying shit the whole year anyway. So, in the end, he wins the match. And then Brett, who comes out with his just perfectly clean and sweaty foot, and then he forces Lawler, who's got all that cheese and grossness on his feet, and sticks him in his own. Not as nearly disgusting as Michael Cole's foot this past year, which looked like he had fucking gangrene. But whatever the hell, it looked like dry Play-Doh or whatever that shit was on his foot. I don't even know what that was. That was definitely worse. But then Lawler, of course, has to eat his own disgusting cheesy toes. So Brett wins a throwaway match. The crowd goes friggin' crazy. Meanwhile, the tournament is turning into a colossal disaster, and we still have the main event.
God, what a waste of Bret Hart in '95. Continues on. Started with WrestleMania, continued. His match with Hakushi was good, but why not do that again here? Why not do Bret and Hakushi in a match and Lawler backing up Hakushi? That would have also helped this card. But Hakushi does interfere here. Am I right? We didn't mention that. He comes in and
he interferes, and then I think Bret moves out of the way and he accidentally hits Lawler.
Right, and that kicks off Hakushi's face turn.
Which would have been great. And unfortunately, there's a guy that Vince really could have kind of leaned on for a few months, put on some at least decent TV matches, but Vince didn't have that frame of mind at the time, so unfortunately. So Brett wins, and the crowd goes crazy, and then he vanishes. We don't see him again, and the crowd is like, well, bye, Brett. What's next? Oh.
If they really wanted to put Mabel over, too, and now I'm not justifying Bret Hart losing again, but why not stick Jarrett in this tournament, put Owen in this tournament, and you have Brett go through those two guys on their way to the finals, wrestle like two grueling matches, and then he gets a decent match out of Mabel and puts Mabel over for Mabel to win the tournament. You could have done that too. You have him fight Jarrett in the first round, solid match, and he has a grueling long match with Owen while Mabel gets the bye still, and then he puts Mabel over in the finals. Like, that could have worked as well.
Yeah. Oh, and you could have even had, he's about to beat Mabel, and then Hakushi comes in, interferes, and then you could still continue the Brett Hakushi feud, or Lawler, or both,
Had an idea, and it really wouldn't have had any rebooking or anything. But look at you've got their Brett and Lawler match, and immediately after is the finals. Well, I mean, what if Brett's celebrating in the ring and Mabel comes out and beats him up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, even that right there would put some immediate heat on him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I'm guessing I had the mindset of a majority of fans around my age. I was 14 at this point. You knew things obviously weren't on the up and up, but you still didn't really know. You didn't know enough to see where things are going. And in my eyes, Mabel did not seem like a legitimate threat to win this tournament.
No.
So something was wrong heading into the show to where he wasn't really built up enough to be even looked at as a threat. Even at this point, where it was him against a newcomer that had only been around for a month and never done anything, I still didn't think he was going to win. So they obviously needed to do more to put him over. And they do it at the end of this match. But to me, it was just a little too late to really make the tournament win feel like anything.
Precisely. So Brett is gone. He leaves the ring. Wins the big throwaway, whatever the hell it was, match. And now we go back to the tournament, and our finals are the big finals. Let's think about the last two finals of this tournament. 1993, it was Bret Hart and Bam Bam Bigelow. Last year, it was Owen Hart and Razor Ramon. Two great, four exceptional talents for two really good matches. And we back it up now with Mabel and Savio Vega. I would have rather had New Edition come to the ring with him. Bobby Brown and Johnny Gill reading the scroll afterwards, and God knows what else. But
every time I hear that now, I'm going to imagine babyface Mabel really dancing. All super, super happy.
And you're going to picture Oscar showing us how to be black, putting his foot up on a shopping cart, standing in an alley with a trash can, hitting on some hose, swinging a purse. All kinds of crazy things.
Swinging a purse with some hose.
You listen to me, you three black men. I want you to go out there and show everyone how to be African Americans. Go in that alley. Put your foot up on that trash can. Show them how badass you are.
Oh, good Lord.
Shut up.
What a disaster. The match is 8 minutes and 9 seconds of pure hell. At this point, the crowd is just throwing crap at the ring, and it's just an utter disaster.
So now, And Graham, maybe you can answer this. Was Razor, his path was obviously meant to be what Savio's was, so he was going to put Mabel over in the finals, right?
I think so. Okay. I really do.
So maybe that would have helped
earlier today. And that would have made sense. Well, I don't know if it would have made sense, but beating Razor means something.
Yes.
Beating Savio, a guy that's been in the door for a couple weeks, doesn't mean anything.
Plus, you would have had a good story with Razor 2 years in a row making the finals and not winning. So it would have been a little story there, too. Now, 123 Kid is not at the show. I think he comes out. Does he come out here at the end of this match?
He comes out after the match.
So, was he still hurt? Because why not?
He was hurt for 2 months.
Okay, so they couldn't put him in instead of Savio then.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't just give Luger another chance and put him in this. If you're gonna use him, he's not even at the show. Why not get some value out of beating his name? Why not have Mabel pin him?
If you think about the amount of money and salary that Vince wasted on guys that didn't even show up, that weren't even at this show, it just boggles the mind. It really does.
It plagues all of 95. He did that a lot during these shows. He left so many guys off cards. It was just confusing. Graham, you were going to say something?
What was I going to say? Mabel does at the next pay-per-view, not to skip ahead, but he does pin Razor at the next pay-per-view.
Okay, yeah, so maybe that was their way of...
some of that heat, yeah.
Interesting. So
Razor's still on the ribs.
So the match is over, which I really, I can't... I'm not talking about the match anymore. I don't think anybody else wants to either. 8 minutes. After the match ends, the crowd and I to use a nice Philly reference, the crowd feels pretty much as they did after Clubber Lang knocked Rocky out halfway through Rocky 3. Pretty livid. At this point, they start walking to the throne.
No, we have the in-ring.
What?
More stuff happens in the ring. They beat the shit out of Savio. And Razor, they splash him, and then once Kid comes out, they beat him down. So at this point, the heat is starting to build better for Men on a Mission, Mo and Mabel. Now they're finally starting to look a little legitimate. They beat down these 3 guys, walking back to the coronation. Everyone's pelting them with trash. At least now we're getting some heat going. It would have been better if they had this going into the show instead of now. And even though he beat Undertaker earlier, like that was meant to legitimize him, it wasn't clean in any way possible. So yes, it was shocking to see him actually pin Undertaker, because that was very rare at this point. But that didn't really help him. So, I mean, here he still didn't get any heat until the moment after he won the tournament. So it's just so blah. I still don't know what they were thinking. There were other ways they could have elevated Mabel without making him win this.
I agree. And he made all this action in the ring, and then the crowd just stopped caring. Now, we could describe what happened next, but I think it's better for all of PTB Nation to actually hear what happened next.
The guy get crowned king properly now. They told Razor to leave. He wouldn't listen. Todd couldn't kill him.
I'll handle this. You move.
Yeah, dork.
Shut up!
Look at it. King Mabel, ladies and gentlemen. The new 1995 WWF King of the Ring. And I must say, a very unpopular king. He did it the hard way. He beat The Undertaker. He beat Savio Vega, who was on a roll. And the sword, look at this. That crown will fit his head. The sweat pouring off the crown, and it's almost as if, look at that look of arrogance on his face. All right, listen up. What's this, scroll? Yeah, listen up. Hear ye! Hear ye! This proclamation states,
be known from this day forward
Apparently there's not a great deal of respect for this king on his capacity crowd.
Well, they love the bad guy.
let it be known from this day forward that the WWF superstar known as Big Mabel
Go ahead, please. Let's get this over with.
You're not the only one that feels that way.
Yeah, and I know he's talking about the show, not the fucking...
That's one angry king.
I think the fans are even angrier.
has competed against the very best the World Wrestling Federation has to offer.
I wouldn't say he'd ever been to an Evelyn Woods speed reading course.
And Bo is taking great exception to this reception.
He has thereby proved his superiority against all WWF superstars. And therefore, from this day forward, you may all bow before his grace.
Bow. Bow.
Behold, I present to you the 1995 World Wrestling Federation King of the Ring. Long live King Mabel!
Long live King Mabel. Who would have ever thought that we would be hearing those words here tonight live from the Philadelphia Spectrum? Mabel has become the king of the ring. And there goes the crowd cruising.
Somehow,
Look at that. Look at that sword held high. Savio Vega wants some more of the king, but there you have it.
oh, now he wants him.
Bow down! Get on your hands and knees and bow down to the next
Wait a minute, Mabel wants to come out as well.
All right, two things here. When you isolate that clip, you would think this was like the hottest wrestling angle of all time because of the crowd. 'Cause, without context, you don't, obviously we know why they were booing and hated it so much, but when you just listen to it, you're like, wow, this must have really been a hot angle. This crowd is fired up. They're booing the shit out of this guy. They can't even talk. So it's just funny when you know the truth behind it. But do you guys think it would have been more acceptable if they changed his name when he turned heel?
What, and called him Johnny Gill or
No,
fucking
yeah.
Bobby Brown or something?
Just anything. Like, even if they went, I don't know. They could have come up with anything but Mabel. Like, it's such a stupid name when you really think about it. I just think maybe he would have been a little more legitimate if they didn't say, all hail King Mabel. It's such a stupid name. Like,
It is pretty hideous. But no,
I think maybe when he turned heel, they should have changed his name.
I don't think it would have mattered. This crowd was ready to just. Vince was clearly shitting himself at this point.
Well, they go to him at one point, and the crowd behind him is clearly chanting ECW and booing him, and he's just looking deathly at the camera, just trying to get through this. You could tell he was just wanted to get the night over with.
Yeah, he did. Doc and what did Doc Hendricks says something. What does he say?
He never took a speed reading class.
Yeah, and the other thing, they like the bad. Oh, Philly likes the bad guy, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, they do like bad guys, but not this. They like bad guys that are cool, not guys wearing, Laker-colored tents or whatever. But
we forgot to mention earlier in the night, Graham, I don't know if you remember this as well. The when I think it was on the show, when Doc Hendricks goes to interview Savio Vega at ringside after one of his matches, and Savio's speaking Spanish, and he's translating for him as he's talking to I think he was being interviewed by the Spanish commentator, and he was like jumping in, and he was trying to he was like, I'm very, very scared of my next opponent, or whatever. I can't remember if it was on this night or if it was on Raw. It was really funny, though.
Well, listening to that clip of the coronation is like reliving a traumatic experience.
Oh, yeah.
I was with you guys for the past hour and almost a half. I'm spent. I want to go cry and drink malt liquor.
Trust me, I think a lot of people in Philly were doing the same thing at the end of this show. But guys, I got some bad news, though. We do have one more match. And this, you would think that maybe these four guys could actually save this. But at this point, I don't even know if they're worth saving. We have our tag team main event. We have our World Wrestling Federation champion, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, coming off a...
Well, good evening, Mr. Crispolo. Hello, Mr. Cawthon. How are you tonight?
Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, fresh off a very busy week for you, my friend.
I'm actually on tour right now, world tour, calling in my Christmas singing song CD. I'm traveling the world. It's a big hit, Mr. Crispolo.
It is definitely a big hit. The Christmas album's doing very well. El Gigante, where are you tonight on this fine globe?
I'm actually in Berlin, Germany.
Oh, you are? Are you meeting Brockus tonight?
I'm eating all the bratwurst around the country, and I'm going to feed my bratwurst to the fat, thick women with the blonde hair around this country. Not to be confused with your girlfriend, Mr. Crispolo.
Well, El Gigante, here's the story. Tonight at the Vault, if you've been listening, we are talking about probably one of the worst shows in the history of the company. Was there any rumors that you were going to make a surprise appearance here in Philadelphia? Philadelphia, they love you, City of Brotherly Love. Love you in Philly, El Gigante.
I was going to show up to be the king, but my friend Mabel called me and he asked me a favor, and he said, can you let me win this tournament just one time? You are so great, El Gigante. If you come and win this tournament, my career, it will be finished. And I said, Mabel, we are good friends. I think you're a superior athlete. You go ahead and you win that tournament, my friend. Beat that stupid Spanish piece of shit, Savio Vega, and his Finnish boyfriend, Ludwig Borga. And you take that crown home with you and your manslave Mo.
Well, as you can see, El Gigante, it failed. It's
Mr. Crispolo, stop interrupting me. You as a pussy. You can't even understand what I'm saying. Today in Germany, I met a small child, and I said, hello, sir, how are you? And he said, I'm good, Mr. Gigante, how are you? I said, I'm fine. He said, I said, what do you want to be when you is all grown up? And he told me he wants to have his own Christmas singing song CD, and he wants to have big brains like the El Gigante. And I said, for you, my son, I will get all the money in the world. I traded your mother for 2 horses instead of 1, is the usual barter trade that's out there.
Interesting. I'm so glad I'm so glad that you are connecting with your fans, El Gigante.
My fans are what keep me going. They're the lifeblood of my furry man suit, Mr. Crispolo.
I agree. Now, Graham, this is an honor. You do know this,
This
right?
is an honor. I have been looking forward to this for a very long time. Very nice to meet you, Mr. Elegante.
You too, Mr. Cawthon. I've been browsing your results, and I don't see many featuring me. How come is that?
Well, they're in there.
Not enough.
Can you not read?
Where are all my times that I beat Steve Austin in 1998? Why are those not in there?
Well, you might want to... Did you look at your WCW career?
My WCW career was stuff of legends. This is why I'm going into the Hall of Fame this year in the WWE's. It's one of the 4 horsemen.
Okay.
Are you going to bring your friend Ric Flair in? You know,
who?
That's the root. Your buddy Ric Flair. You and him were tight back in those days in '91.
I don't know who this man is you speak of. Who's Ric Flair? Is he a wrestler like me?
He is.
Is he a championship caliber wrestler like me?
He is. He doesn't have a furry man suit. His suit has
Well, then he is not a man if he does not have a furry man suit.
Speaking of El Gigante, we are very happy. You were touring the world. We saw a picture on online. I didn't realize you and Derek LaRue were touring together, though.
That bitch does whatever I tell him to.
But where was that?
His smile smiles like the ass of donkey, Mr. LaRue.
Where did you? Where was that picture taken? Somewhere in Europe?
We're actually about to buy him some toothpaste for that yellow smile he has.
Oh boy! Look,
Giante, I have a question for you.
Yes, Mr. Cawthon.
Is it true that you did the voice of that flying bug thing in Phantom Menace?
This is very true. Thank you for noticing, my friend.
That was exceptional.
We are friends for life now.
You know
we shall share blood at our next meeting.
You know who's not your friend, El Giante?
Who is that?
J. Arsenio D'Amato.
That fucking prick D'Amato. D'Amato, when I see you, it is going to be the world explosion, because it is going to be the ugliest beatdown the world has ever seen, Mr. D'Amato. At PTB 100, if you have the ball sack to show up, I'm going to take those balls, cut them off, and shove them down your throat.
Wow. Folks, you cannot miss PTB Nation episode 100. We are just around the corner, less than 2 weeks away from the big summit. You thought that me and Rob Houston was a big deal? No.
Mr. D'Amato, if you think when Mr. Tupac Shakur did his hit 'em up, if you thought that was bad, you just wait, you prick, until I get a hold of you.
Unbelievable, folks. Graham, you have to show up at 100, because you might have to be in El Giante's corner, because he seems to be the only guy that likes you.
I've already got my tickets, and all roads lead to episode 100.
There we go.
I'll be there. Will you?
There we go.
I'll be there. I know that. I just said it, you dumb prick.
I wasn't talking to you.
Okay.
We're talking to everyone listening.
We're still friends. I made the joke. I'm a funny man. What can I say?
El Giante, it is always a pleasure. Enjoy Europe. Make sure Mr. LaRue gets taken care of. His girlfriend's worried about him.
I'm not sure all the orthodontics in the world can save Mr. LaRue.
And we will talk to you next week as we continue on the road to the war between the furry suit.
Mr. Crispolo, I dictate when things are done here. Mr. Cawthon, I'd like to maybe sit down with you over some tea and crumpets someday. Is that okay?
That sounds fantastic.
Maybe we can lay down some tracks together. Like, I don't know if you heard me and Mr. Crispolo did a Christmas track a few weeks ago.
Was it to Wham? Because I heard some Wham saxophone in the background.
Mr. Cawthon, Mr. Crispolo, you can learn some lessons from the great Mr. Cawthon here. Show some respect to a great man of my stature. You sit there giggling like a bitch.
Look, Giante, I'm letting you, we still have one more match to do here. I've let you have the floor.
One more match about what?
The main event of the 95.
This is your main event, you stupid prick. End the show after this. Goodbye.
There's no comfort in the truth. Pain is the hole you find. I'm never gonna dance again.
You know what, Graham? I think D'Amato's getting to him. He's never been that. He likes you, but he's never been that antagonistic. I don't know. Where'd Justin go? There you are.
I'm back. He stomped in, knocked me off my chair, and he had his foot on my chest as he was ranting and raving. I'm
telling you, D'Amato's getting to him. I think D'Amato's getting to him.
You think he's nervous?
I don't think he realized D'Amato was going to call him out. And he's got some other friend. I think Jay Hinchy wants to get in on it. I'm telling you, I think he's nervous.
Wants to get it in with him? I don't know.
Guys, I picked up on something. If you don't want to be ambushed by him, the moment you hear George Michael, just get out of the way.
That's probably a good call.
You know what happened, Graham? If JR doesn't leave his Christmas tree up all year, then he's just going to be one pissed off Argentinian. That's what
because for the month of December, he's basically just slept under my Christmas tree, and he'd get up, knock all the presents over when he came on here to rant and rave. And I took the tree down early this year, and he just got very upset with me. And since then, it's just been a madman. I don't even know where he is at this point. I think he leapt out the window and is running down my street somewhere.
Yeah, well, he's heading back to whatever the next stop on the tour is, Stuttgart or whatever, and getting some of that whitening for Derek's mouth. Anyway, fans, PTB 100 is right around the corner. Mm-hmm. It's a couple of weeks away, and obviously we got a lot of fun stuff we're going to do that night. So it's not just going to be we might have to do that last, because if we do that early in the show, there may not be much of a show left after that.
And there might even be a little giveaway that night.
That is entirely true. That is entirely true. We got a lot still to continue planning, but the planning stages are continuing. But we are ready to go very soon with PTB 100. As you can see, I'm telling you, I think he's nervous. When he's that antagonistic, usually he's very confident. He didn't sound confident tonight. He's getting angry, very angry. I don't know, Graham, very angry.
I'm scared.
Well, you know who else is scared? This crowd in Philadelphia, because they thought they could go home now, but unfortunately, they still got to sit through one more pile of shit.
Rather have sat through a 3-hour El Giante promo than what they got.
Yeah, I would think so. I think El Giante should have won the King of the Ring. I think Giante is actually a better name for a king than Mabel. But anyway,
who are you to doubt El Dandy?
I don't know. I think El Dandy was in this tournament, wasn't he? Oh,
he should have been. Would have been better than everyone else in it.
All right. Anyway, your World Wrestling Federation champion, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, coming off his lousy count-out win or whatever against Sid at In Your House 1, and his partner, the super cool, happy babyface Bam Bam Bigelow, who's big with the fans now after getting, well, we'll get to that story in a minute, why he's a babyface. Taking on the team of Tatanka, who's pretty much nobody really cares about anymore. That heel turn lasted about 3 days. And, of course, Psycho Sid, two members of course, Ted DiBiase's corporation. Why don't you give the listeners a little background onto what happened to Mr. Bigelow since WrestleMania 11?
All right, well, April 24th, Bigelow lost a world title match to Diesel after Tatanka accidentally tripped him. I think we mentioned that in our last show. DiBiase then fired Bigelow from the corporation. Bigelow said, "It's too late to fire him. I already quit." The corporation jumped him. Sid came out, dropped him with a powerbomb. Diesel came out, made the save. Bigelow, now a face. May 8th, Bigelow spoke very candidly about the Rumble incident, Lawrence Taylor, Diesel, and DiBiase. He said he was going to take apart the corporation one by one. On 5/7 Action Zone, Bigelow debuted new music, pyro, and a flame-shooting costume. The main event here for this show was announced the next week on Raw. DiBiase laid down the challenge. Bigelow continued his mission of destroying the corporation by beating IRS that night, and would destroy jobbers right up to the pay-per-view. And in a moment in show of unity, after Shawn Michaels beat King Kong Bundy in his return match, Diesel and Bigelow came out to congratulate Shawn, and they all posed in the ring. And it really looked like those three were going to be set up to kind of be like the main face faction. And unfortunately for Bigelow, his time in that group would be very, very brief. But they could have really made another legitimate face with him at this point. You agree with that, Graham?
I do. And it seemed like right after this show, I remember a few weeks later, building up to SummerSlam, they're like, "Oh, you're Big Daddy Cool's BFF. Well, we're going to feed you to Mabel on Superstars." And that was about it. I mean, they then after SummerSlam, the In Your House, WWF again says, "Oh, you're Big Daddy Cool's BFF. Well, the British Bulldog wants Big Daddy Cool's belt, so he's going to eat you," en route to that. And pretty much after that Bulldog match, he was a non-entity, and he was gone after Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm. Sad.
Yeah.
I thought he had so much potential during this time. And, of course, the other thing we didn't mention that run-up is, leading up to this match, Diesel hurt his elbow. So in this match, he was pretty limited. I think he hurt it at In Your House 1, actually. He did an elbow drop and fucked it up. So his elbow was very heavily taped heading into this.
Yes. And how does the match end? With an elbow drop.
It all comes back in the end. This, I don't know why they didn't do a title match here. I don't know why Tatanka is involved. He was so dead in the water at this point. Wasn't even at Mania. Wasn't even at In Your House 1. His feud with Luger was well over. I mean, maybe sticking Bundy in here would have been a little bit better. He could have squared off with Bigelow. There's more they could have done than Tatanka. He just did not fit in this main event as a heel at this point.
Yeah, I'm guessing they just didn't have anyone because at WrestleMania, or the day after WrestleMania, they effectively turned Shawn babyface. Yeah. So your top heel is now one of your top babyfaces. Who else do you have? Well, Backlund's a non-entity because he's running for president. And you've got the $1 Million Corporation, which is basically the only heel faction in the company.
Well, you know what, too? This, I think Backlund, even having lost a lot of his heat and just putting around doing the president stuff, I still think he would have been more legitimate than Tatanka in this match. At least he's a former champion in the name and had fought Diesel for the title. I mean, at least there was something to it.
Right, there was a backstory.
Tatanka was just so blah, and he just was not a good heel. He couldn't really carry guys. He was better at selling, better at his comebacks, and as a heel here, he just wasn't that entertaining yet. So,
well, also the crowd had been conditioned to expect title matches and not just tag matches with no, real stipulations to them. This is just a tag match. Right. There's no title on the line. Yep. There's no, if this guy gets pinned, he has to leave the company. It's just a tag match.
Now, do you know, was this the plan all along, or do you think they did it to cover for Diesel's elbow injury, thinking he couldn't do a singles match?
That could be. I think it's also covering for the fact that they don't have, they're building Mabel, but he's not ready to main event anything. And I just think they booked themselves into a corner. They've got Sid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You think they could have just done Diesel Sid 2 here instead of the next month?
Yeah, I could see that. At least it'd be a title match, but I would cringe if they had another non-finish that built to July.
No, this would have had to be it. Then you would have had to do something else.
Then that's
July.
fine. That's fine.
And what makes this show even worse is that they spend, and Justin makes a point of this in his comments, we go through an entire pay-per-view with not one title match. Not one title.
Has that ever happened? This has to be the only time, right?
One of a few. I don't know of another, but...
No, I can't either. I mean, WrestleMania 1, yeah, 2, yeah. Even the Wrestling Classic had Hogan and Piper.
Mm-hmm.
The 87 Survivor Series.
Maybe a Rumble. One of the early Rumbles. Actually, many of the early Rumbles, but at least they had the Royal Rumble match.
Right. Oh, yeah, I wasn't even thinking of those early Rumbles.
Yeah, but I mean, that's different. I mean, at this point, the Rumble is with, you got enough storyline to carry the show. This is just a disaster. And the ending is just so bad. Actually, Graham, well, your side, we'll talk about it off the air, but I think there might be an adjustment to you were actually very optimistic, and you gave Diesel a power bomb to win the match. It would have been better if he actually did lay a power bomb down, but it was actually an elbow drop.
I'll have to rewatch that.
And not a very good one. As I worded, it's not a cool, snazzy, big Dusty Rhodes, bionic elbow. It's more like I'm gonna drop on my fat lazy ass. And
I think he does hit a powerbomb. Actually, I think it's when Sid walks out onto Tonka, and I feel like he hits a powerbomb, and then he jaws with Sid, and then he turns around and drops an elbow and pins him. I think there is a powerbomb in there though.
You know what? There probably is. I mean, at this point, the match is such a disaster. Who really cares how the?
I mean, I know Sid definitely walks out on him. I know that for sure.
Yeah, he's watching from the aisle. He's watching the pinfall from the aisle.
Yeah, it's just an utter
18
disaster.
minutes too.
Oh my God. Ugh. So let's just finish it, ladies and gentlemen. My PIC and I and our special guest can easily say that this may be, to this point in time, the only pay-per-view that actually gets an F. There's every pay-per-view, no matter how bad it is, somewhere there's a redeeming thing that comes from it. You could pull this pay-per-view off of the map, no one will ever hear from it. You could skip the month, and no one would notice.
I mean, based on our grades, the best match grade we gave was a 2.5.
Yeah,
which is pretty atrocious with an 8-match card. So
yeah,
Graham, in your eyes, is this the worst pay-per-view ever?
It certainly ranks up there.
Not counting the other, like WC. Obviously, there's a lot of bad WCW ones and Heroes of Wrestling and that stuff. But
yeah, and Bash 91 and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a fun time to try to rank the worst pay-per-views of all time, but I think this easily ranks up there. Now, question: I mean, we all knew that this was going to be horrible going into it. I'm curious to see how you would have redone the show. I mean, you've got to have a challenger for Diesel at SummerSlam. That's really, I mean, what this is building to. They're building Mabel for SummerSlam. If it was your responsibility, what would the main event be? Who would win King of the Ring? What would you do different?
All right. Well, I'll take a stab at this first.
Okay.
I'm going to go along with that they wanted Mabel to win this and move on to SummerSlam still. I'm going to keep him in this, even though I think they could have easily substituted Yokozuna in this spot, had him win the King of the Ring and move on to SummerSlam, or at least, not even if he didn't win King of the Ring, at least move on to SummerSlam to face Diesel instead of Mabel. But if you want to have Mabel in, I would have had to be Mabel, Luger, Bulldog, Owen, Jarrett, Shawn, Taker, Ramon. Already, it's a far superior card to anything you had. Mm-hmm. Even if you're saying, all right, well, Ramon's hurt, okay, then we'll stick Savio in there anyway. Then we do it like I had said. You have Mabel and Luger be the final. You're obviously clearly jobbing Luger out anyway. You don't give a shit enough about him to even have him on the show up at all on this card. So why not have him just put Mabel over in the finals? And now you're at least beating legitimate guys.
Right.
You can still have him go over Undertaker in the opening round, and then in the second round, maybe he goes over, maybe a Bulldog, or he could go over Bulldog and Luger. Now you're really putting him over two guys that mean something. So,
and they're challengers. They're going after Yoko's tag belt.
Right. Exactly. So, there's a lot there. So that's probably what I would have done. If you're sticking with you want a big guy, either Mabel or Yoko fits that formula where you have them go over Luger in the final, and you at least beating some names along the way.
I would have definitely had a title match at the show. I definitely would have, if you're not going to put Jarrett in the King of the Ring tournament, I would have at least had another title match. Didn't have to be with Razor. It could have been with anybody. You could have had. You know what I would have done? I would have not even put Shawn in the tournament if you were going to have him win. I would have had Shawn and Jarrett here in a regular match, end in some schmaz, and then when they're going to wrestle the next month at In Your House 2, and then put a stip on it. I would have done that.
That could have been a tournament match, and it just eliminates both of them.
Yeah,
exactly.
instead of Kama. Why not do that? And then maybe you put Kama in the main event instead of Tatanka.
Yeah. I think that would have been even better.
The other option too is you could have done. Why not even give Owen the fucking title match against Diesel here if you want to mix things up and give Sid a month off or something like that.
Because obviously the two wrestled a match the month before and it was a colossal piece of crap. So why bother dealing with it again? I like that idea, putting Owen in that. Anything. Turn Luger heel. Turn him back into the narcissist or something. I don't know, anything. Anything would have been better than what.
I mean, this is a case where I think they had the talent that is so poorly mismanaged. I mean, I don't know how you leave Luger, Bulldog, Owen, Jarrett, and I'm going to say Ramon. You tell me you could have gutted through a minor rib injury and put on a quick match instead of the Savio stuff? I don't know. I mean, to me, just to have all those guys off this card and put Brett in a wasted match with Jerry Lawler just makes no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think Lawler was done, in my opinion, as a in-ring guy, and they should just let him do commentary and move on. I think it was a waste of time to even continue the feud.
Or they should have rebuilt him more instead of just jumping into the Brett feud. Why not start having him wrestle more in Superstars in the spring? And I know he had the one match with Aldo, but that was more in the build-up to this. Why not have him do more to kind of reestablish him as a legitimate threat? Show some Memphis stuff, or whatever. Do anything to make him at least believable as a guy instead of just this bum who, like Graham said, was just wrestling clowns for the last 6 months.
Pretty much. I mean, but unfortunately, nobody thought as good as we have in the last 5 minutes on what to do with this show. So easily the worst pay-per-view in the history of the WWE. And I know, and it's funny you say, Graham, we're talking about this now because, I mean, even the last 2 years of pay-per-views, there hasn't been one in the bunch that's been as bad as this. Really.
Yeah, I agree. And for all the folks out there that say, oh, I hate WWE now, I like it back in the good old days. Those days weren't always that good.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And you know what the sad thing is? I was a Kool-Aid drinking WWF-aholic at this point. I mean, I was really into the product. This was just, I think I was just at that age, 14, when I had a couple friends that were really into it, and I watched Raw, everything religiously, the pay-per-views, and even I thought the show was a fucking disaster at the time, and I liked everything. I mean, I'm one of the few people that defends WrestleMania 11. Like I'm obscene about it. That how much I don't mind 95. And when the show, even at the time, I remember just thinking like, oh my god, as the biggest optimist in the world, it was still like, what the fuck are they doing? And then when we'll talk about this next week when we do In Your House 2, but when the light bulb goes on that they're going to go forward with Mabel Diesel at SummerSlam, there's a moment at In Your House 2 when that clicks. It's like what are they doing? And it's like SummerSlam was really when they started to bottom out. And by Survivor Series, they kind of, reached that valley and turned things back around. But it gets ugly from here until the end of the year.
Yeah, no, easily. I mean, the shows as a whole aren't as pitifully hideous as this is. But I mean,
SummerSlam's pretty good, as we'll see, and In Your House 3 is pretty good, and In Your House 4 is definitely the dredge. That is the absolute rock bottom of that show. But
yeah, definitely.
We'll get to that over the next month.
Yeah. Okay, so we've established that all three of us consider the show a colossal piece of crap.
Yes.
But let's see what some of our see what some of PTB Nation has to say.
All right, I'm going to start with Neil Trauma because I don't want to forget to do his. He sent us a separate message because it was way too long, he said. So
okay,
here's my feedback on King of the Ring 95. Way too long, but feel free to mention. Happy 10th birthday, Neil. Here's tickets to King of the Ring 95. Yes, that's how I got to celebrate my first decade of existence at the shittiest WWF pay-per-view of all time. Now, in fairness, I was a mark and totally excited to go, and even when it was over, I didn't fully realize how terrible it was as I walked out. Me and my dad and my friend Mike went to the show in Philly, a 2-hour drive from Scranton. We went to the Philadelphia Zoo before the show as a way to fill out the afternoon. Coincidentally, a majority of the monkeys in the primate exhibit could have booked a better show than Vince did on this day. The day before the show, I decided to make signs for all the faces on the show. I let my friend Eric, who I did not invite to come to the show with me, help me make the signs. Yeah, I was a dick at age 10. Plus, I was sitting way too far up to have a sign to appear on TV. We left him on the ground at the Spectrum. Things at the show started off absurdly with IRS coming out to face Savio Vega in a special qualifying match. Thanks for false advertising Razor all month, Vince. I distinctly remember hearing the first line of Savio's music and somehow thinking it was Virgil. I even exclaimed, "It's Virgil!" How sad everyone in our section must have been to discover it was not the man, VIRGIL, would not be there. I was also disappointed to learn they did not pipe in the commentary to the arena. So anyway, no need for me to recap the entire show. I'll just give you a few more notes of what I remember. When I was in line at the concession stand after Shaw and Kama match, when the Undertaker's music hit, the guy in front of us yelled, "This is the match I've been waiting for," and ran out of line and into the arena. Why would he be looking forward to this match? More so, what match did he think was coming up after the first 3 matches of the tournament? I was very proud of myself for correctly predicting that Brett would make Lawler kiss his own feet. And during Mabel's coronation, when the crowd started chanting ECW, Mike turned and asked me what they were chanting. I said, I don't know. Must have something to do with Puerto Rico or for Savio. And we started chanting ECW as well, the immortal battle cry of Puerto Ricans everywhere. On the Tuesday night after the show, my dad let me order the show so all the rest of my friends could see it. Not only was I in attendance for the worst pay-per-view of all time, I also paid for it twice. Neil Trauma, thank you. That was a tremendous story.
Oh, my God, you poor thing. Unfortunate. All right, why don't you, since you just read along, why don't you read our Pablo Picasso at the top, and then I'll read the next one.
All right. Jason Greenhouse. Vince's obsession with big men went too far by pushing Mabel, having to go all the way in the tournament. This show overall is a disaster. I look back on it and it was booked all wrong. P.S. Your pay-per-view's in the sink. Graham, I have a job for you while we read this feedback. I want you to come up with a better menacing name for Mabel for me, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Corey Ferreira. Oh, fuck. We have now hit the lowest of lows for 1995 WWF. The 3-hour show suicide known as King of the Ring. After 2 great King of the Rings before it, we get the biggest shit pile ever.
I'm very excited to hear all the different adjectives that are going to pop up in these comments.
Yes, exactly. Okay, let's begin Fuckfest 1995. That should be like any one of those Coliseum videos.
Order Fuckfest 95.
What's his name? Barry Dudinsky?
Hold on, after that. Fuckfest 95, available now on Coliseum Video.
Well, he's holding an $80 fucking denim jacket.
Kanto takes on Savio Vega. Fuckfest 95.
Savio, with his buddy Razor, takes on Yoko and wins, yes, the man who just showed up at the last pay-per-view and beats a man who was WWF champion for a year. Okay, then. Next, the Roadie takes on Bob Holly. Nothing at all. Roadie moves on. All right, something that has a chance to be good because of Shawn Michaels, but oh, wait, he's taking on the former Quang and Karma. 15-minute draw.
You got his gimmicks confused there.
Yeah, King and Karma, Quang and Karma. 15-minute draw. And HBK is out of King of the Ring. Honestly, what the fuck? Well, I thought that was bad until the genesis of Mabel Undertaker happened. 10 minutes of pure boring action, and they beat Taker so Mabel could win. Why, I don't know, but why the fuck did they just beat 2 of their top stars in back-to-back matches? Semifinal, then Savio again with Razor takes on the Roadie. Short Savio gets the win and somehow gets into the King of the Ring final for 1995. Lawler and Brett have the final match to conclude their feud in the infamous Kiss My Foot match. Brett gets the win and Lawler gets the heel treatment where he has to kiss the foot of Brett. Might be the only good result from this show. Okay, King of the Ring final. Mabel, who got a bye to the final, takes on Savio, who will win the man who's been in the company since In Your House 1, or the man who's being pushed as a main event heel. I wonder. Mabel wins, and we get the worst King of the Ring acceptance speech ever. Main event time, Nash and Bam Bam, now Babyface, take on Tatanka and Sid. It's not good. Faces get the win, and the Nash run looks to get worse. Overall, horrid event, which is saved by the first WWF encounter of ECW. The one thing which makes this great is the ECW chants during the King of the Ring final between Mabel and Savio. Well, thank fuck we got past this one.
All right, the Brodus Clay of Place to Be Nation, Saverio DeFazio, our man. Here is where I really go off. Wow, what the fuck was that King of the Ring? It was god-awful. Get this, it was a Father's Day gift to my dad. Why would you let Candy Girl win King of the Ring? The Taker-Mabel match was god-awful. Kiss My Foot match was the only good thing on the show. Roadie almost making the finals. Ugh, why was Shawn involved if he didn't win? It would have been fun, or Taker even, but no. Vince had to go fuck everything up, that damn prick, with the ECW chants. Whoa, that was out of nowhere. The main event, well, Sid was walking out, was a dumb finish. Fucking dumb, finish. And I know why Shawn didn't make the finals, because Shawn didn't want to put Kama and Mabel over. Well, I don't blame him anyways. Overall, my dad hated it, so so did I. Fuck you, Vince, for ruining Father's Day for us, you prick.
Well done, Saverio. Dennis Nunez. I wish the Iron Sheik could put this show in the camel clutch and break its back while fucking its asshole.
A lot to love.
This show is a big piece of stinking hot garbage that belongs in the graveyard of mega failed events. Nothing more to be said. Bad booking, bad matches, bad everything. I'd like to request Iron Sheik soundbites exclusively for this vintage vault if possible. No one can accurately express how hard this show blows better than Sheiky Baby.
I'm sorry, Dennis.
Itself.
I didn't see this beforehand. I'll get some Sheik quotes soon to play throughout the shows.
Back to your man. Oh, I'll say this quickly. Savazio.
Savario. You Santino Marella now?
Severio Fazio. Oh, please note, I meant to say god awful, and Sean didn't want to put comma and Mabel over.
Okay.
And I'll just my brother comments after this. Hear ye, hear ye. Him and I, he hates when I bring this show up, so we have to discuss it, brother. It's just the way we roll.
Yep.
And it brings high entertainment anyway. So.
I think we lost Graham again.
Did he vanish?
Yeah. You know what? We'll just finish.
We'll finish.
We'll talk to him after. Graham, thank you for appearing on the show.
Yes.
Eric Caffiero. This is without a doubt the worst pay-per-view of all time. Every match sucked, especially the main event and the stupid kiss by foot match. What the hell was Vince and company smoking when they booked this shit? My two favorite parts are Doc Hendricks translates for Savio and ECW chants during the finals. Let us never speak of this piece of shit show again.
Okay, so it was this show that he did the thing. All right, here he is, the master of the apostrophe and the man who stares down the barrel of a gun. J. Arsenio D'Amato, one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. The classic moment of the King's foot being shoved in his mouth is classic. Also, the Build-A-Heart Lawler with Lawler stepping in horse manure and making Aldo Montoya eat a foot-long sandwich was unforgettable.
I'm trying to fix things with Graham if you want to discontinue.
Oh, okay. Sean seemed the logical person to win, and he was the most... Well, Graham made these comments. Sean...
All right, I think we're all back together. Graham, you with us?
Yeah.
Okay, we're back.
Okay. That was Graham. I was just reading your quote.
Was it good?
No.
No, it sucked. I even came up with a brand new name for our man Severio Fazio. I called him Savazio. Maybe that's a good name for Mabel. That's what I should call him. King Savazio.
King Savazio.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You can do the next one because I'll do the long one for you. So
all right, Karen Polland.
The Hot Scott.
This show is the absolute pits. I'll give Vince credit for trying to push new guys, but the problem was that he was pushing the wrong guys. When a tournament features Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Yokozuna, and originally Razor Ramon, the final two should not be Savio Vega and Mabel. Worst of all, show was in Philadelphia, and they did not deserve such a bad show, especially with ECW literally just a few minutes away. The worst decision was Mabel actually pinning Taker. This was around the time where you literally needed an army to take Taker down, yet a comma kick and a Mabel leg drop was enough to keep him down. Shawn should have been the winner hands down. How many times can we say down? If they wanted to keep Kama strong for SummerSlam, they could have had him and lose by DQ or count out. It's just disappointing. This pay-per-view is probably the worst of all time. To top it all off, we have a crappy main event continuing Big Daddy Cruel's reign of terror. Bam Bam looked like he was going to be the only one motivated, but unfortunately his momentum was cut short by the click. Overall, a terrible show that could have been much, much better. And we talked well about Bigelow, but we didn't mention that, how he definitely seemed like the main guy on this whole show that was really motivated.
Well, it seemed like every time he got in the ring, the crowd had a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And then when he gets tagged out and any of the other three guys are in, they stop caring. So, all right, Brian Samek. Ah, yes, King of the Ring, 1995. I made the mistake of watching this whole show again the last 2 days. It hasn't aged well. So if it sucked then, I really don't have a word for how bad it is now. I have a soft spot for the show, though, as my girlfriend at the time, in 1999, knew I was a huge wrestling fan and went on her own and got me a tape from eBay. Unfortunately, it was this disaster, but at least she tried. Poor thing. The worst part about this whole thing is that they had enough great talent to put together a fantastic tournament here. Shawn, Owen, Bulldog, Kama, Taker, Razor, Yoko, Rhodey would have been fine and allowed to continue feuds as well. What we got was a fucking mess. It's not even worth going over each tournament match. Shawn and Taker got bounced in the quarterfinals. Really? If Shawn wasn't in ring shape, as I've heard some say, why did he go the full 15 minutes with Kama? As for Undertaker, a win over Mabel here makes their feud later in 95 that much better, as Mabel is out for revenge. In the end, Shawn should have won this thing over Owen in the finals. Shawn's mega push was kicking off that summer, so what better way to start it than make him king? Owen is trying for his second King of the Ring, one more than Brett, so that would have made sense to have him in the finals. Turn Bulldog heel next month, and there is your SummerSlam main event, Bulldog versus Diesel. No more need for Mabel at all except for the Taker feud, which I was fine with. The tag team main event was fine. Diesel's elbow was hurt, so he needed a tag here, and Bigelow was getting over as a new face. Having Tatanka and Sid as opponents made plenty of sense as well. Plus, I guess they were trying to make the tournament the focal point of the show instead of a WWF title match that would overshadow it. Funny that a Diesel vs. Sid rematch would overshadow Mabel winning King of the Ring. Yes, the main event scene in summer 1995 was going to be that bad. The best part of this whole thing, though, was the Philly crowd shitting on Mabel with boos as he's getting crowned. Why the good heel here boos either, more of the what the fuck is this shit, why did I pay for these tickets type boos. I have a good friend that was at this show, and he said Mabel looked to be crying once the camera shut off from what the crowd was yelling at him.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, really. Finally, I've read that Vince did not watch other companies' WCW, ECW TV shows or pay-per-views. But why didn't someone tell him that this show was a bad idea in Philly with the way ECW was rising and the type of wrestling ECW had at that time? The crowd ate the WWF alive all night.
Arrogance. Do you think the show would have been better received in a different area, or do you think it just would have been a flat crowd instead of an angry crowd?
Well, like I said, if this show was like in, latte sipping country, Fresno, or one of those shows where they show up late, I don't think they would have even cared.
Right. Everyone probably would have been flat.
Yeah.
All right. New member to the nation, James Mander. My first comment here from Birmingham, England. Love your podcasts.
Oh.
I personally really like this show. I'm sorry. I really read that wrong. I personally really like this show I didn't. As I think it's so bad it's actually funny. I think that Undertaker and Shawn were too established to even feature in this tournament, let alone win it, no matter how bad the roster was at the time. Then again, I would have taken Kama or Savio Vega to win this over Mabel any day. The main event is probably the worst in living memory for me. Gotta feel for poor Bam Bam Bigelow, the only guy who came out of the show with any credibility, and a few months later he's gone. The crowd might have hated every minute of it, but over here we probably would have thought it was as good as SummerSlam '92. We were that starved for wrestling, and this is like the Rhode Island accent nightmare. Kama and Savio Vega. Try not to do the R's. And I'll just read the next two quick, and then you can get the couple long ones here.
All right.
Tony Nagel. Long story short, this show made people believe ECW exists. Mm-hmm. Austin Pfaff. All hail the Candy Girl. Waited all week to say that. And one more thing. EC-Dub, EC-Dub, EC-Dub. And Jay Hinchy. Well, what can be said about this King of the Ring other than it's considered the worst WWF pay-per-view of all time? Only two memorable moments with Brett sticking his foot in King's mouth and the Philly crowd chanting ECW during Mabel's Savio. I think either HBK or Undertaker should have won King of the Ring that night instead of Mabel. Not sure else what they could have added other than it's probably the worst pay-per-view in company history.
Yes. And again, welcome, James Mander. Welcome to the another good fan of ours from across the pond. And now we go down under for our man Dave Hall. One of the worst WWF pay-per-views of all time. When the crowd starts chanting for a different promotion in the middle of the event, you know you have serious problems. Vince has to have his sanity questioned on the booking of this show. He pushes a tag team candy cane fat slob with no talent to the final, along with a guy who the crowd have had little chance to get to know yet. Makes me want to chant ECW, and I live in Australia. But credit has to go to Savio Vega. He wrestled 3 matches on the pay-per-view and had his qualifying match on the pre-show. With some major talent in the tournament, why couldn't the booking have been better? Yokozuna gets counted out, Undertaker is attacked, and the worst of the lot, Shawn Michaels, the number 2 guy in the company at this point, and a legitimate main eventer, and recently turned and returning face, wrestles a draw with Kama. Must suffer. The supreme boredom machine. This killed the event right then and there. Diesel and Bam Bam work a horrible tag match with Sid and Tatanka. I have no idea why this was on last, but the less said, the better. The only saving grace of the show is Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler in the Kiss My Foot match. I just watched on the Best of the King of the Ring DVD last night, and it was well worked, told a good story, and finally allowed Bret to avenge everything that has happened in the last 2 years. Lawler sold the whole stinky foot thing well. Other than that, this WWE should burn every piece of footage from this show. Everyone who has ever suffered through this show should receive free front row tickets to a WrestleMania of their choice. Well, you should let Neil Trauma know that.
That's why his last name is Trauma. He sat through the show.
Yes, exactly.
Heather Despain and Ashley Cruz. The booking for this entire year is a bit questionable, but this show takes the cake. Mabel sucked. The bracket should have been retooled, and the final should have been Undertaker versus HBK, with HBK going over. The main event was a meaningless tag match, which WWE obviously never learned from, as they did a similar thing with Rock Cena versus Awesome Truth at Survivor Series 2011, and that was from Ashley.
Interesting. Jared Insell. I have to be honest. I have never seen King of the Ring 95. Good for you. I missed it back in the day, and after hearing how god-awful this pay-per-view was, I have managed to avoid seeing it over the years. I think I'm doing myself a huge favor by not subjecting myself to this torture. That being said, I know wrestling well enough to point out a shitty show when I see it. Even on paper, this event looks horrendous. What the hell was Vince thinking? Not even Bret Hart could save this show, as he is put into a lame gimmick match. The rest of the roster is completely misused from top to bottom. There's no way Mabel should have been crowned King of the Ring. It made no sense whatsoever, especially with HBK, Razor, who wasn't even legitimately injured, and Taker all involved in the tournament. Never mind the fact that Owen, Bulldog, Kid, and Hakushi were all left off the show. Seriously, what the hell? I'm sorry, but I haven't even seen this show, and I despise it. Lord knows how I'd feel if I actually subjected myself to the punishment of watching this irredeemable piece of crap. All I could say is props to the fans in Philly for calling out Vince and his WWF booking committee for the shitty show they put on. After this low point, things start to get a little better, albeit very slowly.
Jay Hinchy comes back with us. A couple of other things I want to add to my earlier comments. Hats off to Savio Vega for wrestling 4 times that night, the pre-show and the actual pay-per-view. Savio doesn't get the credit he deserves for trying to make something out of a bad situation that night. One thing I didn't understand is why didn't Owen come back to defend his 1994 crown? I don't think he was in the tournament at all, was he? And no, he wasn't. Also, Bulldog, 1-2-3 Kid, and another guy we didn't talk about, Hakushi, was left off as well from this card.
One of our newest and newest and most exciting members. we go. The front man for the Dubes, Michael McDonald. Welcome, Michael, as always. Looking back, the one thing that I'm happy with is that they didn't blow the first HBK vs. Taker match on this abortion of a pay-per-view. I'm also at a loss to explain why Owen Hart, Davey Boy, Jeff Jarrett, Hakushi, and Lex Luger were left off the show, as those four would have had at least made the tournament a trillion times better than what it was. In fairness, Savio Vega tried his damn ass off, but had the roadie, who technically was portrayed as a sidekick goon, and the Fat Pack to work with, so you don't get much out of it. The Kiss My... I can try to read this with that playing in the background. The Kiss My Foot match was a good match. But Lawler vignettes aside, we see a hot feud based on family pride destroyed by false allegations. It sounds like Mongo singing. False allegations of rape. And as a result, it disintegrates to feet kissing. Had Tony Atlas been in this match, I think the SD Jones Mania record would have been in jeopardy, as Atlas would have laid down and stuck his tongue out before the 3 count. I don't want to honestly knock all the performances Brody. I'm sorry, Michael McDonald. As Brody, Holly, and Kama, and even the new King, with slight retooling or completely new gimmicks, have pretty solid to even great roles in the Attitude Era just a few years later. He's trying to find a redeeming quality here. Leave them alone. So it's even more indication that the booking was, to be quite blunt, fucking pathetic. Now, the main event. I swear to whoever you pray to, that Bam Bam had to have been sabotaged. He's the only guy here busting his ass to give the crowd something to the crowd. Give the crowd something to the crowd. But could have only mustered the equivalent of an ice pack to an amputee. Again, Sid... Let's try like that. Again, Sid had to have seen something, but this time he couldn't have been alone. He, Diesel, and Tatanka had to have been witness to Lombardi Patterson, too. It's the... Oh, Jesus. It's the only logical thing I could think of to describe something so poor, so lifeless, from 3 guys who should have known better, but simply didn't give a damn. I feel dirty for having watched this pay-per-view. I feel bad for the people who paid for this. It's like Neil Trauma. I think this even is the sole reason you will never see a King of the Ring anthology. Much like 1997 is the reason you won't see the 3rd and 4th volumes of the Survivor Series. Too many people got and could get hurt by it. And he adds at the end, don't read, but feel free to omit the... Oh, okay, so don't read it. So never mind. Should I read it anyway?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Says, don't read, but feel free to omit the grammar errors. Bam, giving the crowd something, ignore the crowd bit after. Got a train of thought and only went bipolar. I referenced an unrelated Tony Atlas fact and a long-standing rumor involving Jim Duggan. My bad is as the greeting on Planet Funk.
My bad.
My bad. Oh, good Lord.
And
wow.
I was actually surprised. Michael McDonald said he's never gotten the Doobie Brothers or Michael McDonald joke, so I was pretty proud. We were the first ones to introduce that one to his life.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, we are now going to travel to the other side of the coin, to our guest tonight's site, the historyofwwe.com Facebook page, and look for, let's see, let me find it.
I'll start it off. Donnie Markowitz. I was live in Philly for that event. After all these years, I can't figure out how both Undertaker or Shawn Michaels, the 2 heavy favorites, get eliminated in the opening round. Memories of a rabid Philly crowd pelting King Mabel with garbage will forever be etched in my mind. King of the Ring was, in my opinion, one word, awful. It was one of the reasons I feel 1995 is easily the worst year in WWE history.
Mm-hmm. Hussein Ganawi. Very cool.
I hope he talks about he means that about the podcast and not the show.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let me add these next 2. Eric Thompson, Mabel. Ugh. The 1995 King of the Ring could have been much, much better, but that goes in line with the booking during that period of the WWF. Just awful.
Miguel Rojas, one of the worst pay-per-views ever, worse than WrestleMania 9, December to Dismember, or any other bad pay-per-view combined. Aside from Undertaker and Shawn Michaels and the heavy favorites, Yokozuna would have been another good choice to win the tournament, as he was a former 2-time WWF champion and currently one half of the tag team champions. The only bright side to that pay-per-view was the very vocal Philly crowd giving their opinion of how they felt.
Dino Mufk McDonald. I don't know what Mufk is. My best match was Diesel and Bam Bam Bigelow versus Tatanka and Psycho Sid. That was a top match. Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler in a Kiss My Foot match, and Ahmed Johnson versus Goldust. Okay, I think he was...
Donnie Markowitz corrects him.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And then Donnie ends with, I'm not saying either Taker or HBK or even Yokozuna should have went over, but one of the 3 should have been in the finals or at least got out of the first round.
All right, Graham, on the spot. What's your Mabel name?
All right, here's what I did. I cheated, but it worked so well, I want to tell you how I cheated.
Okay.
I go to Google, and I type in best wrestling names. I click on the first link. I'm reading through the list, seeing if anything even applies for this. And then I come across one that just screams Mabel. Diabetes.
That's a good name. All hail King Diabetes.
Diabetes. He starts throwing candy bars at the crowd.
I was hoping maybe you came up with, was it Pork Chop Cash? Was that the guy back in the
That would work too. Yep.
All right. We've been going way over here, so let's wrap things up. I hope you guys enjoyed. We tried to make King of the Ring 95 as enjoyable as humanly possible for you, but thank you, as always, for listening. Visit us, of course, at the message board, bigelow34.proboards.com, on our Facebook page, on Graham's Facebook page, A History of WWE, and his awesome website, thehistoryofwwe.com, reaching its 10-year anniversary, expanding next month. Yes. Check that out. Check out WrestleChat.net as well, and follow us on Twitter at place number 2B podcast, and you can follow Graham on Twitter. It's just the History of WWE, right? Or is it at G Cawthon? Is that the one?
It's the History of WWE, or if you want to follow me on my own, it's just at Graham Cawthon.
Okay, so there you go. Follow Graham as well. He's always throwing some interesting facts and live reviews, live tweets and reviews as well. So check that out. Graham, we want to thank you, as always, for joining us. We're going to have to make this a little more often than the last time we had you on. So
yes, please. This is so much more fun than actually watching the show.
Okay, good. So we'll have you pop in every now and then for these reviews. And you will be joining us, of course, for PTB 100 coming up in a couple weeks. Yep. Of course, January, I got the date wrong in the message, but 25th, right? We're shooting for?
Yes. Yep.
Of course, we'll have the big showdown between D'Amato and Giante. We're up to, I think, like 15 guests right now at this point, so a lot of excitement out there as well. And, of course, we may have a little giveaway, as we said, as well. So there you go. We hope you enjoy your long Martin Luther King Day weekend, and we'll be back next week with the headlines and then In Your House 2 the following weekend. So until then, for the Broham, the PIC, I'm Justin Rosero. Have a great night.
Peace.
That you have made